We had a girl come in the other day who's went, I've gave up running. Well, when did you give up running? 4 years ago. Nobody's helped me. She came in just before Christmas. So see now she's done her first 5K and she's went, I'm not as fast. And I went, well, you've not ran for 4 years. Of course you're not going to be as fast. But she's running, and you're just thinking, well, why has she just been written off? That's the thing that we need to do better as a profession. Look at the goal of the patient, try and get them as close to that goal as we can, make sure we've got the technology to facilitate it, make sure we've done the training to facilitate it. But we need to be better at being that proactive. Don't be reactive. We've got to get them back at the right times and make sure they're pain free. That's the point.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Optimised Practice Podcast. I'm your host today, Blake Sargent, and today I'm joined by the amazing Adam Smith, owner of a phenomenal practice that he's going to share with you. Also has been on the council for the Royal College of Podiatry, and someone very committed to raising the bar, raising the standards for the industry as a whole. So together, Adam's going to be sharing a story today, and we're going to be talking about how he's gone about raising the standards for the industry and doing his best to, be a shining example for how things should be done. So there we go. No pressure, Adam.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, but perhaps best to share with everyone where things started for you. How did it all start?
I worked NHS full time for a few years, and I just realised that was not the place for me long term. I got moved around clinics because I was very good at taking something underperforming or not working and then getting it there. So, I'd taken a few clinics with like a 15, 16 week waiting list, got it down to 1 or 2 weeks, and then got told, actually, we're aiming for 12, and thought, okay, that's probably not the place for me. I always knew I would then need to have my own thing that I can mold and do what I wanted. So, I'd met my now wife, through podiatry. So she was looking for a job. I'd left NHS full time. We started just a little dom visit, house visits, that was great, but wasn't my passion. I'm really into MSK surgeries. I like gadgets. You can't carry a laser and a shockwave around with you on a backpack. It would be cool if it was like a Ghostbusters type thing, but you can't quite do that. So for me, it became about getting a clinic, a practice. And I had thought of just a 1 or 2 chair, ended up with a 4 chair, had to eventually kind of cannibalize the kitchen, make a fifth room. So it's went a bit further than I thought, I would say. And Blake Sargent is very much responsible for that. That is one of your many sins in this world, Blake, forcing me to grow so much. So, yeah.
You've become a victim of your own success. You got really good, you kept growing and had a desire for it. And take us back then to perhaps a point where you felt like you needed to shift your model, like back to when it was you, Dom's, very busy. What were some of the things you changed?
So Joanna and I were out on DOMs and we're seeing about 15 people a day. And I don't know about you, but if you're out from 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning until 7 at night, it's not much fun every day. Apart from Saturday, which we worked a half day, and Sunday we were off. And we just thought, unsustainable. And it was, we got a reputation for doing well with MSK surgeries and stuff. We rented MSK appointments and nail surgeries. We rented a room in a physio practice. So I approached them and I'd said, can we potentially expand? Because we only had 2 half days in the week. So all my more complex stuff was being done in 2 half days. There wasn't the facility. They didn't want to grow and they didn't want to give up the extra time. They wanted more physio, which is understandable. So we decided, well, we need to open ourselves. And there was nothing small enough without treading on other clinics' toes. And I didn't want to come into competition with people that I've either went to uni with or I know. I just thought I don't want to set up in the same town as you. So we set up in Prestonpans, which is my hometown, and we ended up with a bit of a bigger practice than we ever imagined. Fun fact, Preston Pan's the starting place for the Jacobite Rebellion. First battle. And it's beautiful. It's the best place. It's great. So we started off with a place a bit too big. And the architect said, why are you building 2 rooms? Build 4. So we done that. We ended up with a podiatrist joining us after a year. And I'll be honest, our first year, we didn't really put the effort in. We didn't, we were doing home visits. One of us would be in the clinic and we didn't put as much of an effort in. It was when Jill joined that we really pushed it because Jill's a perfectionist. She's still with us 6 years later. She is outstanding, one of the best podiatrists in the country. And I will happily hold my hands up and say we are so lucky to have her and the rest of the team. But she came in, brought in a bit of a professionalism. And then she said, I want to be employed instead of an associate. And that made my stomach jitter a bit. Luckily, we happened to see that you and Troy were running a thing, so we came along to a Hive event, me and Joe, down in Liverpool, and we realised we need this. We had just went about recruiting another podiatrist, Phil, who's still with us, and we realised that we needed to do a bit more work on sort of building and growing and actually running it like a proper business, not just a bit of a hobby. So the very first time we came to a Hive event as a member of the mastermind, before Optimus was there, it was just mastermind. So the first time we arrived, you're sitting in a room with people like Kieran and Debbie and the Pipers and Wells, and they've got amazing practices. People like Pete Williams, who has been on this as well, and the stuff that they know about podiatry and business is just scary. And I was sitting there going, our average spend is £22, and we make about £8,000 a month, and I was delighted with that until you hear the figures banded around, and you're going, oh, okay, we are doing this very wrong. So it made us sort of change our model, and luckily we changed the model about the time lockdown came on and the joy of COVID. So we just incremented some prices, but I sort of decided coming out of COVID, everything might as well change. So we changed everything, and it really grew. Within a few months of coming out of lockdown, we hired Rachel, who's still with us. We hired Kaylee not long after. I mean, we at the minute got 9 podiatrists, including Joanna and myself. So it's been good, and we've always been lucky people like to come and work for us. I don't know what we're doing, but yeah, I think I try and sort of push it, and people talk about the benefits. That was our big thing. We needed a kick up the backside. We got a kick up the backside, and we just implemented the changes we had to make. I think that was the key thing.
So what's the snapshot of where you've landed now? Where are you now? Back from 6 years ago, which is, domiciliary, just moving into something, just the two of you. Where are things now?
So as I say, we've cannibalized the kitchen into a clinic. So we've got 5 clinical rooms. 4 are in use every day. There's a few days we've got a 5th room in use. We've just hired somebody who will take up that extra space. So we'll have 5 rooms on the go. I don't like being too busy. As soon as I look at a diary and it's 100% full, I get a bit antsy because I think if somebody's off sick, it's hard to put people in. I like space for being able to book an MSK, or let's say Blake came in with an ingrown toenail and I went, I want to take that out on Friday. You want to have that space available. So we were running around about 97% full before Richard joined us in January. So that's calmed down a little bit. And it's January, it gets a little bit quieter. So we've got time to ease him into it, giving him an hour for an appointment, ease him in gradually, make sure he's doing things the way sort of me and Joanna want it done, which is make sure that you've got your rebooking, make sure that the patient's got a good care plan, all these things, and make sure the patient's getting the right treatment for the condition they come in with. And we're booking out one of the more senior pods to be in at the start of the treatment, leave him alone for a while, come back in towards the end just to make sure everything's going kind of properly. Um, and that's only been possible because of that sort of growth we had. So we went from around about £7,000, £8,000, and we're now playing in the sort of £50,000 ballpark, which is nice. Um, it comes with extra costs hiring a lot of people. Obviously, it doesn't all go into my back pocket, which would be nice, but it doesn't. And I think that's where our benefits came. I've realised that if you're gonna run it properly, you need to actually run it properly. You need to make sure that you've got the appointments there and available for people. If somebody phones up on Monday in pain, they're not going to wait until Friday or 2 weeks' time. They want it done as quick as you can. So we've kind of looked at things, and I've just automated everything I can. We've got clinics up and down who have 3 admin staff for 2 rooms working, which is fine for them. We have been able to automate as much as we can, so we don't use as much admin staff as other people, and I think that benefits us. It's not as much chasing around. So yeah, it also makes my life easier, and I'm all for an easy life. That's the point. I don't want to be doing that, 9 till 8 o'clock at night again. And 12-hour days, 11-hour days, not fun.
It's interesting. I don't think we've ever spoken about this particularly, but I think one of the keys to your growth and your success is you always invested in your team first, because and I'm no surprise that you have a queue of people that want to, are always asking, if you've got work. Is that, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you pay really well. And I remember even in the early days, you were paying the higher salary, and you were taking the hit yourself. So from an early time, and actually for a long time, you were paying really high, like, I've got to get my team happy. Let's get them settled. You were then investing. Well, for quite a while, you just kept buying kit, but you kept investing in kit. So your team were not only well paid, but they had and still have the ability to do very interesting work. Like it's a dream job. And I think that's why now you're at like 9 pods and a great team culture.
Yeah. I mean, somebody said to me that I think that's more pods than, I'm not sure if it was the Isle of Man or like Orkney and Shetland health boards. And I was thinking, okay, fine, just in little Preston pans, I'll take that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I buy kit. I like gadgets. I mean, I am surrounded by my very expensive action figures and bits and pieces. I've got too many hundreds of pounds of Warhammer sitting right in front of me that I've been painting at the minute. I like buying stuff that I like. So when it comes to the kit, I've always bought the better stuff, invested in Cetus Orthotics. They've got the best machine to do the best job. Celtic SMR lasers, the Swiss Dora class shockwave, best in the market. Why would I not buy that? So I've always went for something that's going to benefit us long term. Not going to cheap out, not going to do anything that's going to break in a year, not going to buy something that won't do what it says on the tin. Make sure this is the best machine, this is the best bit of kit. And then the pods go on their training. I mean, Phil and I, we're both going down to London at the minute doing our ultrasound. So again, we bought an Orca machine, one of the best machines on the market. It's fantastic, touchscreen, great. I've paid for his training. It's not cheap, but I'd rather pay for his training. We paid for all of the team to do an introduction to ultrasound at one point. In a few weeks, we've got an entire day out of clinic where, and I think this is one thing that benefits us culture-wise. As much as I do make some decisions on my own, I always make sure the team understand why in the context, and we talk about it. So in a couple of weeks, we've got an entire day out of the diary, no patients booked in. We have a photographer coming in for headshots. Great. Got to be done. Nobody likes a photo taking, but it's got to be done. But we'll be doing just things about treatment planning, make sure we're all doing the same thing. People understand the context of why we're doing this, why we're charging this price, why this machine works, how this machine works, these kind of things. So we'll spend the entire day as a clinic and talk through it. And I'll go off and, there's nice places along for food. I'll buy them all a burger. I'll go up and get them some paninis, whatever they want. We'll just do an entire training day like that, because I think investing that day, I'll give them the context on what they need, and it lets me then see where weaknesses are or where I could be better as a manager for them as well, and make sure that we are supporting them appropriately, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very cool. And so I guess it is fine to invest in kit as long as you then implement and commit to using it. And that, the thing we want to avoid is loads of kit gathering dust in the background that people having to pay off every single month. So if you're going to invest, you use it. And there was a phase that I remember, like I think it was a full year where you put like you put handcuffs on your credit card. You're like, I'm not going to buy anything for now. I'm just like, and that was it. It was an amnesty on buying new stuff.
It was until it paid off. Like, we'd got a couple of things on finance very early doors because we weren't making the money. And I just sort of turned around and went, why am I paying money to a finance company? So we basically blocked buying kit. We looked at not spending as much on stock, not wasting money, because, the amount of things that just get lost or broken and damaged, particularly in a bigger team. I'd hate to tell you, I think I've replaced 3 iPad screens this year just because of silly breaks. And it's something just to cut down on, but it does get cut down on. People apologise and we move on. But it's silly little things like that we just cut right down on. I paid off the finances, and then suddenly you're looking at it and you're going, "Oh, okay, well that's fine. If I want to buy this, I'm putting some money away every month, and I'm going to buy it." That's how we get new shockwave machines, or we pay for the service. And I mean, we've just spent £1,000 on a new program for our ultrasound machine to literally just see where a needle goes, so you can see the little ping from the end of the needle. So it'll help our injections. It's £1,000 for a bit of software, and I'm going, it's a lot of money, but it'll help. So hope it helps.
So raising the standard for the industry, like we share a passion in that. We share, that's part of the Hive's mission, is to raise the bar, consistently raise the bar, and then also to help practitioners stay in the business, and to value themselves. So how do you do it? How do we do it? Have you been doing it?
To be honest, I know there's a whole thing in podiatry where people kind of go, if you've done a 3-year degree, don't just cut toenails. I will turn around to the team and say, actually, if you've done a 3-year degree and you want to cut toenails, make sure it's the best toenail cut that anyone has ever had in their life. Make sure that they're coming back and you've checked everything else. Nobody's going to leave here and have like a diabetic problem where they lose a toe in a month's time. Make sure everything is done properly. If I'll let the team kind of go where they want in their career, and they'll do training and facilitate things to make sure that they've got that security and support, that they can kind of go along the ways that they want. As a profession, I think that we don't really know where podiatry wants to go. And I think the problem is, in practice, people are too busy. They're too busy doing the day-to-day, doing everything else, to take the time to sort of think, where do I want to go, or can I go and promote the profession locally? Some people do, but some people have got a family and a job, and they go to clinic at 10 and maybe come out at 5, and they're going, I don't have time for anything else. I've dropped the kids off at school. I've got to make dinners now. I've got to do it. It's hard. We've delegated so much as a profession to a small group of people who, from sitting on the inside, maybe don't always have the interests of everyone at heart. And I think as soon as you start neglecting the responsibility yourself, it becomes very difficult to claw it back and say, well, actually, I don't feel represented. And then people don't vote on things like elections later on, or, Facebook and things have become the bane of everyone's life, where it's too easy to go on, put a post and say you're unhappy, and you don't change the thing that makes you unhappy. That's why we started the clinic. I was unhappy doing DOMS. I left NHS because I was unhappy getting a clinic from rubbish to good, and then getting moved to fix another clinic, and then being sent back to that clinic because the other people hadn't followed the same standard, like the standard I'd set. So I think we're not an action orientated enough profession. You look at dentistry, they've came up with a really good model where they turn around and go, people need to come to us every 6 months for prevention. That's what dentists consider their main thing really is preventative. Podiatry, we don't think of preventative, but people are doing between 8 and 12,000 steps on average. So we are very preventative, and we just don't seem to have that oomph to want to get involved at an early enough stage. We wait until somebody's got an Achilles problem and then try and recorrect the entire gait. They spend a lot of money on orthotics, they spend a lot of money on shockwave, when actually if we'd seen them every 6 months and they start going, actually, I've had a little niggle at the back of my Achilles, can you have a little, you have a look and you go, oh, well, actually, your hip's not working quite right. Here's some exercises to strengthen, to change your hip flexors to get your knee stability a little bit better. That's going to mean you're not putting the stress on your Achilles. There you go. And you could prevent these issues happening to patients much earlier. As a profession, we've never bridged that gap. And I think that's part of the problem. We're too reactive. Um, it can change, but it needs more dynamic pods. And I think the way we need to do that is to grow the profession, whether that means more sort of podiatry assistants coming in to do a bit more of the legwork and pods move up and become a bit more supervisor. But that means that we can't be reducing the number of pods. We've got to still be on the effort to grow them. There's 70 million people in the country and around about, what was it, 11, 12,000 registered podiatrists. That's a lot of people per pod. When you take out 10, 15% who are academic and, not practicing, then you've got people who are practicing part-time. There's maybe only around about 8,000 full-time pods in the country if you're being optimistic. So the expansion's there for us. We've just never really done it. And I think delegating it to people and hoping they have the same interest in us and the same passion that we do doesn't always work. We've got to be more involved as a profession.
I think there's a huge opportunity ahead as well. So I think the more and more there is pressure on the NHS, the more people look to private practice, and a lot of people are electing to, rather than see their GP and then get referred to have, their treatment for quote unquote free on the NHS. They're electing to say, no, I'll go effectively private and I'll go and see Adam. I'll go and invest the money myself. And I think what you're creating is a model where people go, oh, I can actually be really well paid. I can do really interesting work and I can be part of a team. And I think, the example you're setting serves as that, the example to show to other people, hey, working in private practice doesn't mean that you need to be driving around in a car half the time and sort of charging £20 to clip an 80-year-old's toenails and then go somewhere else. It's like there's so much more that's available to people these days.
Yeah, I mean, about a third of our caseload is MSK. So, I mean, if say we've got 10 appointments booked for the day, I'd expect every pod to probably have 3 MSK, whether it's a laser, shockwave follow-up, something like that, or acupuncture. It might be reviewing a gait analysis or, an actual first stage, you coming in with a problem. We've got a lot. We've pushed it that way. A lot of that's been through marketing. But I think the main thing is when somebody's been in, we make sure they've had that follow up. So when somebody's came to us, again, I'll talk Achilles problem. If we've gone, okay, that's going to be, you're in for an hour, this is what we're going to do, here's your exercise plan, it's all on an app so they can go on, it's all on video so they can watch the video and make sure they're doing it properly and doing it correctly. Maybe we've gave them, they've bought a Hoka or bought an orthotic. We might have done a little bit of a shockwave or a laser treatment early doors just to try and stimulate that kind of pain response and reduce that. We get them back within a week or two. I'm a big advocate that 4 weeks is way too long. And a lot of pods seem to do that. And I think we've, take from physio. If you go to a physio or a chiropractor, you know you're going back within a week or two. So why are we the profession that are sort of going, well, 4 or 6 weeks? If somebody's doing their exercises wrong, 4 weeks is a long time to be doing it wrong and getting no result. They're not coming back. And then they're going to tell everyone, well, actually, they didn't help. So when somebody leaves us, we make sure they've got that appointment for, 1 or 2 weeks. I would generally say if we can get you 50% better in 2 to 3 weeks, I'm delighted. So you need to monitor it. But they leave with all the information they need. They've got their exercises on their app, and then we send them little pinpoints. This is how you wear your orthotics. This is what we would expect pain wise to be when you're adjusting to your Hoka, because they've got the rocker front. It's going to be a little bit different, so don't be worried if this happens or you get a little ache here and there. And we make sure they've got all the information and the care plan that they know to come back. And if they came back in 2 weeks pain free, excellent. That's fine. What we're going to do is review and assess you in 6 months, because we don't want the pain coming back. And because we've got these constant little touch points with people, we don't have massive reoccurrences in MSK. You'll get a few, but generally people improve quite quickly. And partly that's all the gadgets we have. I would like to think we're a very skilled team. We've done enough courses, and I think we are. I mean, I would put my team up against anyone in the country. I've said that before. I would put them up against anyone in the country. But all of that comes from having such a dedicated bunch of people, and we all want to do the best for the patient. But the main thing is making sure the patient, client, whatever you want to call it, understands, oh, we're working with you to get you back to your task. I mean, we had a girl come in the other day who's went, I've gave up running. Well, when did you give up running? 4 years ago. Nobody's helped me. You know, she came in just before Christmas. She went for her first 5K because I've seen her on Monday or Tuesday. So see now she's done her first 5K and she's went, I'm not as fast. And I went, well, you've not ran for 4 years. Of course you're not going to be as fast. But she's running, and you're just thinking, well, why is she just being written off? Anyway, whatever. But yeah, that's the thing that we need to do better as a profession. Look at the goal of the patient, try and get them as close to that goal as we can, make sure we've got the technology to facilitate it, make sure we've done the training to facilitate it. But we need to be better at being that proactive. Don't be reactive. We've got to get them back at the right times and make sure they're pain-free. That's the point.
Nice. Love it. Well, look, we'll have to get you back on the podcast again to share some more of your wisdom. But what would be your parting piece of advice to other practice owners out there?
Coaching. I mean, listen, everyone knows if you were at the point we were of £22 average spend, and there was more month at the end than the money. So you're sort of sitting there going, oh, great. Coaching helps. I mean, everyone knows, right? If you're sitting in that position, you know you need to put your prices up. You know that if it's costing you £10 to bring in a new patient, you need to rebook them. But a coach just kind of, the way I would put it, having coaching and working with people within the hive has meant that you've all made the mistakes for me and told me what works. So I'm getting the benefit of not having to figure it out on my own and make the mistakes, cost them money, cost them time. I know what works because it's worked for other people. That's my thing. And actually having a coach who's going to tell you that's not the best idea, it's worth it. So for me, just having that little voice next to you who's going to kind of get you on the right track is pretty fundamental. It's what's driven us to where we are. Yes, you'll put your own personal touch, like keeping the team, building a dynamic team, making sure we've got all the kit. That's me and Joe. But you need somebody who's going to tell you, actually, this is how you put all these things into practice. It's putting together the jigsaw. The coach does that. They're your guide on putting everything into place for you, so you don't have to figure it out yourself. That's my big take home.
Thanks so much for sharing your journey, Adam. It's been a brilliant journey, and hey, you've got many years ahead, so I can't wait to see what you create. Thanks, everyone. That's all for this episode of the Optimized Practice podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe so that you never miss another episode. And please follow us on social media. And if you want help building a practice like Adam's, you want help building a profitable, stable, highly respected practice that can ultimately work without your daily input, then please reach out to us and we'll do everything we can to help. See you guys in the next episode.